Right. Oh my God. So this is extremely exciting. Robin, tell me about your ergonomics update.
Yeah, well, I finally got a desk.
Wow.
It was sort of quite straightforward. So I've shipped out my old dining table, and now I've got myself a mechanical raising and lowering desk that is 110, I think, centimeters wide, which is just perfect to fit behind my door.
I'll say right at the top here that not only are we not sponsored by any of the things we're about to speak about, we don't even have affiliate links. So did you get a Flexi Spot desk? I think I mentioned that last time. I've had good experience with them.
You did mention FlexiSpot. I looked into it. I think to make it affordable, it relied on finding a really cheap place to buy wood, which I failed to do. And I discovered that, I think basically these desks are not that complicated. So I've got a fairly well-reviewed thing that was actually from Amazon, for my shame. The way I work with Amazon is I put quite a lot of effort, particularly if I'm spending any significant amount of money. I put quite a lot of effort into trying to buy it from somewhere else. And then at some point I just give up and buy it from Amazon.
That's okay. I do the same. I switched off my Prime subscription so that my default wouldn't be Amazon. And now I try all the local stores. I try this, I try that. Now I try eBay.
Yeah, right.
Then when that fails, I agree. I fall back to the one supplier.
So this desk came from Amazon, and I can't fault it really so far. It's clearly not solid wood, because it wouldn't have been as cheap as it was if it were. But as in, it'll be MDF covered in a coating. But it's perfectly good enough. I didn't want to spend £300 on super long-term furniture.
Of course, MDF is very clever. In addition to being very cheap, it's also very light. A solid wood is very heavy. The big drawback with MDF that I've seen on various DIY channels is that it's you have to have a bit of preparation before you drill through it, because you're drilling through something that is not quite as predictable as just solid wood. There's splintering. There's more. I believe I've heard people talk about waterproofing. If you spill a coffee and then it goes into the hole that you've just made, suddenly the entire compromises,
and that's where it explodes.
The MDF.
And it right.
There's a half and half situation, and I think the first party FlexiSpot tabletops do this. The outer 5 centimeters are solid wood, and then the most of the middle is MDF.
Oh wow, that is interesting.
Yeah, I guess it means you can drill into it, screw something into it. I've got a headphone stand here, just little bits, and that you tend to want to do that around the edge.
Yeah. That makes sense. This thing comes with
a
headphone hook, pockets dangling off the right-hand side. It's got a little hole for the cables to come through, although I don't know what I'm going to use it for.
Nice.
That's off in the back corner.
Tidy.
I deliberately put it the side away from me. It's been perfectly fine. It goes from 72 centimeters high to 120. No, 100. Actually, more than that, right? 100. I can't remember what it goes up to. Yeah, but its high setting is as high as I could need, and low setting is as low as I could need. It's perfect. And I've got my stand for my monitor. I've got my little stand for my laptop. It's perfectly big enough for my usage, because it's not like I spread out papers all over the place. Yeah. And the chair is probably from Robert Dias, maybe, or something like that. I can't remember.
I don't believe that's going to be very useful for our international audience.
It's a very well-known chair, in the sense that this same chair was available from a bunch of different places. So it was it's basically the cheapest chair that I could find that looked like it had decent wheels and a mesh back and a tilt feature and goes up and down, and it's again perfectly fine. I don't have any complaints about it at all. Yeah, I was trying to keep the price low and hit all the important points, and I think it's been great.
Wonderful. How about what is on the desk? How's the monitor situation? The laptop was on a stand. You had the old MacBook keyboard, the most perfect keyboard in the world. What's on the desk?
Exactly. I got the perfect keyboard.
Great. I'm so happy for you.
That's the main feature, to be honest. And that sort of hasn't really changed, because that bit I already focused on. I already had the arm for the monitor. I already had the arm for the microphone. And they clip better than they did onto the old dining table that I had. So there were points where they'd be fine for a while, and then one day they'd just fall off.
Oh no.
On the dining table. But no, this is now more solid. But apart from that, the setup's pretty much the same. I've got my little portable folding stand for my laptop, which keeps my laptop up and away a bit. And then I've got my mouse and my perfect keyboard.
Wonderful. I'm very pleased for you. The most important question is, how has it affected your day-to-day work?
I've only actually done one significant stint of working standing up, but it was good. And I think I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that more. I feel like I can stay at my desk longer if I vary my way of working at it. If I change it from standing to sitting or something like that, I feel like I can stay at my desk longer. Yeah.
When I first got my standing desk, I tried out a rule that I read somewhere, which is to take meetings standing up, calls standing up, like remind oneself that like, oh, this is that, because it allows you to pace, which is you typically do when you're talking, like on the phone or whatever. And it like is a nice reminder to sort of get up, and meetings can often be quite boring, especially in our field. And like standing increases the energy slightly so you don't fall asleep.
The only thing that would
quite nice.
Yeah, I've struggled for a long time with trying to find a good wireless headset that includes a microphone, which I think is necessary for pacing.
Possibly, but the webcam doesn't come with you either. So but
it sort of does. I mean, like I can be walking in a fair amount of the room and people can still see me. Obviously they know I'm pacing, but like that's okay. But the important thing is that I can speak and they can hear me.
Yes, that is true. Although, as you know, and I think probably our listeners have got by now, I really, really love having high quality audio, even when I'm on a call. You will not find good quality Bluetooth headphones. It is not the microphone's fault. It is the wireless protocol's fault.
Right. So I did buy myself a thing that I then promptly broke very quickly, which was like a Barracuda X, maybe, gaming headset. But basically my conclusion was that you can buy what you want is a boom arm, right? Mm-hmm. So I've done this quite well that I now have a wired boom arm that I can plug into my headset here, my wireless headset, my Sony X, whatever they are, wireless headset, and I can plug in this boom arm, but that's wired, so I can then plug it into my laptop, and that works well for like me being out in a noisy place, and it brings the microphone close to my mouth, and that's great. Wireless versions of that you can't. No, I don't think you can just add a wireless microphone to this wireless headset. I don't think that exists. But to get a microphone that is a headset like this or a smaller headset and a boom arm, you're looking at like in the business space, you're looking at like Jabra. And they are super expensive as well. They're not good. They don't look good. They don't look comfortable. And they're also like £250 or something crazy, because I suppose they're targeted at enterprises or something. The thing that is also quite expensive, but maybe a little bit more affordable, is basically gaming headsets. And in gaming headsets, you then get things where you can plug in a USB thing, and that has its own wireless standard that it uses to communicate between the...
Got it. Quite common, like a 2.4 gig wireless connection. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that can be. Then you can have like a gigabit of bandwidth. That'll be plenty.
Yeah, so I might go back to buying myself another, because I just what happened? I snapped the dongle that you plug into the side of the laptop because I left it plugged in and I shoved it in my bag or something and it just bent. I don't know. So yeah, that was annoying. But I need to. And then once you killed that, you can't use the headphones. There's no way to fix it.
Ouch. Oh no, yeah. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good idea. My experience with Keychron keyboards is that they have a 2.4 gig wireless dongle, because of course in gaming every nanosecond counts. But I'm a wired guy, as I think the battery life is great on wired stuff, the latency is great on wired stuff, the bandwidth is great. Oh, love a wired thing. However, I am wearing Bluetooth headphones, same as you. I wonder if the Bluetooth stack could be routed backwards. Like, use the same Bluetooth profile, which is called high quality audio or pro audio or like whatever the one is we're doing now, but flip the transmitter and receiver so that the transmitting part is the bit that you've got on your head, and it pushes it down over Bluetooth in high quality stereo to the computer.
Just assume that if that were possible, it would have been done, because I know what you mean. Like I've done this thing because I did try out some Bluetooth headphones, and in fact, these can be Bluetooth headphones. And you just notice, like you switch into microphone mode or whatever.
Headset mode,
and
it's called.
the degrading in the quality of what you can hear is insane. It's so obvious and it's terrible.
And it's mono.
Yeah, and it's awful. Like, it's really bad. And it's just astounding. I don't understand how we've persisted on a standard like this. I don't understand how this can be such a difficult problem to solve. It's clearly not, because other like people with proprietary wireless solutions can do it. So why Bluetooth?
Here's my guess. Bluetooth chips are all the same. They're mass produced. The ADCs and the DACs, like, they're all like built to one standard. And that standard assumes the normal way of using headphones. So I bet the Bluetooth, like, there's a Qualcomm or some kind of Bluetooth chip in my Sony headphones that is the same as in nearly every other Bluetooth headphones. And it's that does all the Bluetooth stuff. And there's only one version of that. But it's too expensive.
One of the default use cases for Bluetooth is surely a Silicon Valley dick with an Apple phone and those white Apple wireless headphones, right? And they're having a phone call AirPods. As they're like walking down the road, you wearing these white Bluetooth headphones. That is a situation where you need good quality two-way audio.
It is. Yep. And I suppose Apple have got the fabrication to do a higher quality version. Most don't.
Yeah, they probably do. They probably got like their own standard stuff that is not in other phones and whatever. And that's why you should buy like the Apple Bluetooth headphones, because they like add this proprietary layer because they control both sides. And that's another example of why the standard's shit. Like, that's because the standard doesn't do it well for everybody else.
Hopefully it will do it eventually. Like, it's only in the last, is it 10 years, 15 years that we've got the Bluetooth?
Yeah, it's only been around for a decade and a half.
Like the Bluetooth the high quality profile. Yeah. I'm seeing that the quality of AirPods on Android is very bad. What a shame. What a shame. We've got a second update that I am even more excited about from you, Robin. I am reading here, Digital Garden update. Oh my God, tell me all about it.
It's not that much to tell. It's just that, like, we spoke about the Digital Garden. You told me about Digital Garden, this Obsidian plugin that allows you to easily link a folder. It allows you to easily tag a document in your vault to say, I want this to be published onto the web. And so you set up this link that uses a GitHub repository. And so, is it Vercel?
If you used Vercel, that's fine. I used GitHub Pages.
I did the default thing. Like, I just followed the default tutorial, and I was curious because I've not used Vercel before. Yeah, so by default, it tells you to set up a GitHub repository and a Vercel site, and it's linked into that. And so therefore you put this like metadata that says publish whatever, and then another metadata in my case that just says this one's the homepage. And then it puts that on the website for you. And that then means that you can just edit your Obsidian in Markdown like you normally would, and it'll just go up and it'll be represented on the web as this web page. And I was really excited when you told me about it. It's got this whole philosophy, as you said, about digital gardening behind it, where the idea is, rather than us like thinking very carefully about how we're going to design a website and then going through a whole load of steps to make sure we're producing exactly the design that we've designed and all this, you are creating a more of an organic place where you can just tweak it here and there, you can tidy up, you can do some weeding. And
I first heard of digital gardening through Maggie Appleton's incredible post, The Brief History and Ethos of the Digital Garden, linked in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I found that in the intro, there's a couple of paragraphs that I will read just in case the listener isn't up to date. She says that a garden is a collection of evolving ideas that aren't strictly organized by their publication date, unlike blogs. They're inherently exploratory. Notes are linked through contextual associations. They aren't refined or complete. Notes are published as half-finished thoughts that will grow and evolve over time. They're less rigid, less performative, and less perfect than the personal websites we're used to seeing. And that idea of being less perfect is why I thought they were going to be pretty good for the perfectionist, who is my co-host.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is probably something, it probably fits into a thing I've been trying to do in my life broadly, which is that, like, I think I've always been very far from perfect. I've always been very chaotic, and I very rarely finish things. And I've realized that the only way for me to be effective in the world is to really stop expecting myself to be perfect. And that is a very difficult journey. Like, I'm trying to minimize the judgment on myself. And I've done that in many ways. Like, I've always been a very transparent person. I think I've clocked 2 decades ago that me just trying to be radically transparent is one version of me trying to work against my inherent self-judgment by saying, if I just expose everything that's going on and I tell everybody all the secrets and whatever, and they haven't lynched me, then clearly it's fine.
Yes, radical transparency wins, though. That's to your friends.
And so this, as you say, fits in very much with that. I think, broadly speaking, I think carefully crafted messages is another way to describe propaganda. And I don't love it. I prefer that people be much more organically straightforward with what's actually going on for them. And this is a great way to do that with a website, which I absolutely love. And I think it would free me from a lot of the worry, anxiety that prevents me from writing more on my own website, because I, at some point in the process of sitting down for a significant period of time, writing a whole article, committing it and pushing it so that it gets published, thinking about whether it's messaged in the right way for the right audience, somewhere in all of that, I tend to fall off and be like, this is too much. I wander away and I never return, and then therefore it never gets published. And
it's a bit overwhelming.
This hopefully completely shortcuts that. And we don't know yet. I only just put it up. So you can now see, if you want to, garden.robinwinslow.uk, which at some point will become robinwinslow.uk, but not today.
No. Beautiful.
And it's not got anything there really. It's just got a very tiny little, you'll see it. I haven't even thought about what's up there really.
Well, don't worry about it, because by the time our listeners hear this, there might be something.
That's true. There might well be. And the fact that I've publicly spoken about it now, as in we haven't published this yet, but I have done the beginnings of publicly speaking about it, is going to make me want to focus on it a little bit more, which is a good thing. Hopefully, as Tris says, by the time you look at it, it's not completely pointless.
Let us move on to something I've just thought of that we need to talk about, which is we are changing our schedule. Fortnightly was a bit ambitious. Monthly-ish, I think, is going to work better for us.
I think if you go back and listen to our very first episode, we actually suggested that we would do it monthly.
Geniuses.
And yeah, but I think that we then fell into, I think because we wanted to meet every week, we wanted to alternate the planning and the recording sessions. That then led us into, it's going to be fortnightly. But I think if we find out a way to do monthly, I think that will work better, because what's tended to happen is that we'll record and then I have been taking quite a long time to learn how to do the cut, like find the publishable cut of our ramblings that I'm okay with. And that's been taking me weeks up to now. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it.
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 100 times better. Like, you've gone from zero to editing very quickly. And I really appreciate that. Takes some of the editing burden off me. And then for the listener's interest, I take that initial cut, which Robin does in Descript, and then I throw that into Reaper, the best audio editor on the planet, though it does look like it's from 1995. And then I like handcraft, make sure everything flows extremely well, and I do death by 1,000 audio cuts, so to speak, of my life. Throw in a load of effects, make sure it sounds good, production noise, that sort of thing. I only use effects that work on Raspberry Pi, not because I have a Raspberry Pi, but because I want to hedge against the inability to do any of my professional life anywhere I wish. So like I've standardized on ARM Linux as that like minimum viable platform. Like if it works on ARM Linux, then damn it, it'll work anywhere. And so a surprisingly large number of things do, but this sort of restriction does limit me quite a lot. Honestly, even if I just chose Linux, it would limit me quite a lot. I once spoke with a professional producer, and my first question to him was, what do I do? How do I I can't use all of these commercial plugins, Adobe's plugins, the Isotope plugins, all of these things. I need to just use like basic plugins that work everywhere. What do I do? And he was very, very clear. He said, mate, you're fucked. and I was like, oh no. But surely, no. He wanted me to spend £2,000 and buy a MacBook Pro. That did not seem like a very sensible thing. But Reaper is the cornerstone of this. Reaper.fm, not sponsored, is where to get it. It's by the same person who made Winamp. If anyone remembers the 90s. Marvelous.
And you can tell from the design.
yes, they've not, unlike Winamp, which has got a cool, I suppose it does have a cool skin, but yeah, it's very Windows 95. But it is more powerful than anything, and it's got Vim key bindings. I'm delighted with it. Vim key bindings using the Reaper Keys plugin. Come and talk to us. Come and send a message to me on the discussions for this episode if you're interested, because there is a further explanation required on how to get that set up.
Right. This is you said us, but this is very much not us. This is you. If you want to know about this, ask Chris.
Yes.
Don't ask me.
Yes, Robin will read the message, but I will be replying.
Yes,
absolutely. Okay. The limitations of LLMs, I have a structure and framework for discussing that I'd like to present to you and our listeners. And it comes down to the core difference between LLMs, how LLMs process language and respond, and how humans do. There is a marvelous philosopher called Alan Watts, my favorite philosopher. I have a few books of his here. And in his lecture that is available on YouTube on meditation, he talks about that the biggest problem in the world is that we talk about the symbols in the world instead of the things that are in the world. Now, this is a bit dense and philosophical, but I promise that I'm going to come back to linking to LLMs. So the idea of talking and rationalizing our lives in terms of our thoughts are that we've got this idea of when you and I talk about a car, say, there are three levels of this discussion. The first level are the words that we use. It's a red car. It is a Volvo car. Like, these are just words. Then when inside our respective brains, when we are communicating with these words, we've got some, what Alan Watts calls symbols. Perhaps this is a philosophical term. And those words resolve into the symbols in our minds about these concepts. And the symbols are what our chemical brain has associated with this word, the car, and what we see as the car, and what we hear when the cars drive past us, and our memory of stories about cars, and all of our cumulative experience through our lives about cars. And Alan Watts says that is much better than the words, because the word, but that is not the real thing. The real thing is deeper down. The car that we're talking about, perhaps we're both looking at a car that is parked on the street, is made of metal and plastic and rubber and all this other stuff, and atoms of those components. And none of those actually have names in the universe. Like, each little atom doesn't have a little name like it does in a database. They're just there in the world, in reality. We have given them names to talk about, and our chemical brains have turned them into symbols to think and reason about. And the problem when discussing the car is that the symbols in my brain about a car have a very different relationships in my analog brain to the ones that they do in your analog brain. And the purpose of education, one of the purposes of education, is to fill up all our symbols so that we can at least talk on kind of the same terms. But as I forget who said this. It might have been like Shannon or one of the communication giants. The biggest problem in communication is the illusion it has been completed successfully. So I say, look out for that car. You think I'm talking about the car that we're looking at, but I am talking about the car that is behind you and about to hit you. The biggest problem, you think the communication has finished successfully. You're like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'm looking out. Yeah, the car's not moving. Brilliant.
Why am I about to die in this scenario?
Well, I'm trying to warn you, and perhaps I will dive and catch you out of the way. So I am bringing the good ship ADD back into Ritalin Bay and finally coming back to talk about LLMs. I hope it is obvious where my argument is going to go. LLMs are these networks of tokens with weights between them, so that you can jump between the tokens and find a likely path through the network, and you will make reasonably plausible bullshit out of it, i.e., completed sentences. An LLM that has been taught on the English language has about 500,000 words, which is perhaps approximately 500,000 tokens. Maybe it's half, maybe it's double, but that's the sort of order we're talking about. 500,000 is a very small number of anything. My eyes, and your eyes, if your eyes are as good as mine, can see 500,000 shades of red. They don't have names, but I can tell the difference between them. And in my mind, in my analog chemical brain, I have symbols for those different shades of red. And there's way more than 500,000 of them. And that's just the color red. And it's just me thinking of a simplistic example. And not only are there other colors, I don't know if you know this, Robin, there are things other than colors.
I have seen one or two, yeah.
There might be trillions or multiplied by trillions of these things of these symbols in our brains. More than that, maybe. Multiply it by another trillion. Plausible. Like, it is so far away from the 500,000 words of the English language that an English language model has access to. It is laughable that any knowledge, any cleverness could ever be possible in such a limited system.
Yeah. My brain goes in a couple of directions. Although I did look up the quote, and you not knowing where it came from is completely appropriate, because it seems that nobody knows. Nobody knows exactly where it came from.
Oh, fuck. I hate that. Fully half of the quotes I look up for my videos are apocryphal. Ford did not say you can have it in any color as long as it's black. Someone in the 80s in a business book said that. Oh, sorry.
Right. I don't know this is apocryphal. I don't know that it's like something... It says here there's no substantive evidence that George Bernard Shaw made this statement. So I guess he must be the one that people think.
He said a lot of things.
That it's been attributed to, who isn't necessarily true. But it says here at the top, George Bernard Shaw, William H. White, Pierre Martineau, I don't know, Joseph Kaufman, anonymous. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's a good quote. Great quote. What I was going to say is, I'm curious. So we know that regardless of how many symbols we might have in our brain, we are communicating, at least when we're doing it in written form, purely through the words in a language set.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that is the thing, this really fundamentally the space within which the LLM is trying to work, is this communication through this language set. And so I'm then curious how much the mapping for us between those words and much, much richer and more complicated symbols in our brain has to do with the way that an LLM actually works.
We will need a philosopher and a psychologist and a brain surgeon, perhaps, to answer that question.
Well, no, I don't think we do. As in, okay, You've brought up philosophy. I love it. I was just reading the Wikipedia page for Alan Watts.
Rude. Yeah, his life is great, by the way. What an interesting person.
And it's so this is my space. I'm interested in it. So let's explore it. Because you could argue that it is related in the sense that what's happening with an LLM is it's reading all these words that have been written by humans, and also apparently auto-generated stuff by ChatGPT 5 or whatever, which is just insane, but whatever.
Yeah, it's not going to get any better, is it? Yeah, go on.
But anyway, let's in an ideal world say by humans. Yeah. So it's reading all this stuff that's written by humans, and behind all that stuff is versions of our work to take a much more complex space of symbols and convey the meaning of that to each other. Right now, imperfectly, sure, but that's what we're doing when we're writing and we're understanding each other, right? And so it's then working backwards, right, and looking at that and trying to figure out what's the complexity underneath. And so you could say that the thing that it's then doing, where it's generating this probability vector graph between the appearance of this word next to that word and the appearance of this sentence next to that sentence, or this kind of thing, which is its version of trying to understand the actual meaning of the text. It's those probabilities are then a model of our symbols system. And so you could argue that is what it's trying to do. And therefore, your argument is there is no possible set of relationships between those words that can ever meet anything close to the complexity of the set of symbols that we in fact have when we are understanding meaning from human communication.
I don't think I agree. What you have said is very clear and pretty good, but I don't think an LLM is a model of the near infinitely more complex relationships in our mind. I think it's a model of language.
Yes, fair enough.
And not of like meaning or intelligence. Like they're not trying to be intelligent. They're trying to just solve language.
Yeah.
And like they fully have. Like we've completely solved the language problem, which is amazing.
Yeah, as in it can generate a very technically spelled, good capitalization,
yes.
hangs together, it's got a subject and an object in whatever sentence. Perfectly fine.
Have I told you on the podcast, we'll have to cut it out if I already have, about the first time that I saw a demo of the company WeFarm's technology, specifically about their African language translation model?
I don't remember.
WeFarm was, because all good things run out of money, was a social network for farmers in rural Africa that they could swap tips and questions and answers about like how to better increase their yield of coffee, or how to solve the drought that was coming, or I've only got this, how do I get Y? But you have a very heterogeneous language problem to solve there. Lots of different nations, lots of different languages. And WeFarm said that they had demonstrated their natural language processing. This is way before LLMs. They were doing it the hard way. And their first slide was a paragraph of a language I didn't read. And they asked if anyone knew what the language was. And a few people answered. And eventually someone said Swahili. And the person said, "You're wrong, but for the right reasons." And they did their whole talk. And then at the end, they came back to this slide and said, "This isn't Swahili. This sounds like Swahili, but is gibberish. We put random data, we ran our algorithm backwards and put random data in at the end and produced something that sounds like Swahili, but is nonsense." And it was such a good demo. I was like, wow, that's cool. Like translating Swahili is like, to me, that's all very well. I have no way of knowing how good it is. But generating syntactically valid or sonically valid stuff that sounds like Swahili, that is very, very clever.
Yeah. I feel though that's kind of what even like Lewis Carroll was playing with Jabberwocky.
Yes, exactly. Yes, or Vogon poetry, they sound like words, but they are not words. Or those songs by I think they came out of the USSR where they were like Western style songs that just were nonsense that sounded like English to the Russian ear.
Yeah.
Very fun. So the reason I'm telling you this is they put random data in at one end, and what came out sounded like Swahili, but was nonsense.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying about LLMs?
Well, because it models language, not meaning. Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. But this is the thing. So I think that the explanation of the symbols behind the words that we use in our brain and how they are so unimaginably vast in number is very interesting as a way to think about our use of language. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm curious about is how much it's usefully applied to even as an answer to why LLMs have no intelligence. Because to me, it seems like it may. And so when I said that the vector graph of statistics, the probabilities in the vector graph that are underneath its understanding of language are like a model of our symbol system, what I meant was it's the closest thing you can imagine to that within the way that LLMs actually work. But basically, I agree with you. It's a difference in kind. So fundamentally, the thing that makes LLMs not be able to produce any form of intelligence is that they're not trying.
Yeah.
Right? Like nothing about the way that the thing is written is intended to understand problems and then reason about what would be a good solution to those problems. That's just nowhere in the way that the thing is written at all.
Autocomplete trained on the internet is incredible. And it is solved in a whole category of problems. That category of problem is language.
Exactly.
You said just a moment ago something I think that is very telling. Why does it seem like they have solved intelligence? Why is it so easy to trick people with demonstrations of ChatGPT and what have you, that it is intelligent? And I have an answer for that as well. And the answer is a question. What is the largest part of the human brain, Robin? Do you know the largest section?
Prefrontal cortex, perhaps?
Sounds like you know way more than me. I was just going to say the bit that does language.
Okay.
We are such language-focused species. It's the reason why we're at the top of the food chain, not because we're stronger or anything like that, but like language, like which gives us technology, which gives us guns and so forth. So, it's not all good.
Guns to kill other animals. Yeah, true.
We're so good. I mean, we're good at running long distance, I suppose. We're the best long-distance runners on the planet, but we are so good at language.
I didn't even know that. That's cool.
We are. Yeah, well, it's bipedal, right? So it's really efficient. Like we're the only bipedal runners. So you can outrun a gazelle because the gazelle get too tired. The old postal couriers, they had to swap horses multiple times a day because the horses would get tired. We don't. We can carry on just doing marathons quite slowly, obviously, especially if you're not in training. But like you can run all day or jog all day, or you won't overheat. A horse will overheat.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That's what. Yeah, well, yes. That's
not immediately relevant, but yeah, pretty interesting.
Not immediately relevant. We are so language focused, and this has come into sharp relief for me quite personally recently. About 5 years ago, my dad had a very, very, very small stroke, and he's fine, but it did stop his ability to speak quickly. So he really has to struggle to get out a few words. Otherwise, he's fine. He carries on doing all the things he loves doing. He just can't talk about them very much. And seeing how people who don't know him interact with him is shocking. They talk down to him. They think he's stupid. And it's because we think how you speak, how fast you speak, what you say, your accent, all these things are bundled up into quite a lot of things, but specifically intelligence. And it is so ingrained that in English, what is the word for somebody who cannot speak?
Dumb.
The same word for unintelligence, or at least it has been used for the same thing.
Yeah.
They're so dumb.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
When faced with something that can perfectly mimic speech and seemingly passes the Turing test, at least until you realize how to ask it tricky questions, it is such a small step to think, oh, this has intelligence. Because things that don't have speech, things that can't speak, aren't intelligent. So things that can speak, my language-focused brain is telling me that this must be intelligence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about how prejudiced people are towards somebody who is not able to communicate in a way that we associate with intelligence, I think that's so very true.
Oh, yeah.
And also speaks to why LLMs will be harmful. Because people take their polished language and they afford it far more authority than it should have.
Oh, yeah.
And that really matters when it's then speaking about things that are biases in themselves.
Scams.
That way of thinking about symbols is fascinating, but not the fundamental reason why LLMs are not providing us with useful meaning. Because
they weren't designed to.
Yes, that's the fundamental reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I agree. It's just a way of throwing that this example of the three levels of words, the symbols, and the actual reality is a great way of throwing light onto and making clear that LLMs weren't designed to make meaning.
Yes.
Because if they were, they wouldn't have been trained on words.
I see. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. And it also helps to illustrate the point that we are miles away from creating any kind of AI. If we were to try and create AI that could do what a human does, with generally understanding general novel problems and trying to figure out what a good solution to them would be, if we were ever going to try and do that, which is what people claim that LLMs can do and they just can't, if you were ever going to try and do that, we have fucking so far to go. Like,
Yeah.
We're nowhere,
what you need to do,
nowhere near it.
What you'd have to do, and I am not expert in the topic, is the way we know how to create human level intelligence is to have a general purpose brain, connect it to our senses, and teach it about the world by letting it experience the world. And then question mark profit. Like that, the amount of input that our brains digest every second is unimaginable to me.
Yeah. I actually found
that's how to do it.
Were you a fan of Westworld?
I am aware of it. Okay. I have not yet watched it.
Okay, so
I have played Fallout 4, which is, partially similar.
So this may be related, I don't know. And I don't think I'm spoiling it, but you're aware that Westworld contains robotic people that are supposed to have the fabled ability for independent thought and to act as humans in the world, right?
Have I got it right that some of them, or all of them, or a category think they're human? Or do they know they're...
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. They think they're human, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, yeah.
But
same as Fallout 4.
But the theory, and I don't think I'm giving you a big spoiler here, but the theory behind what creates that in Westworld, which I thought was quite interesting, this is complete thought experiment stuff and not to be taken seriously, it's just... But I thought it was quite interesting, is the theory is that the thing that really gives a artificial brain the experience to be able to unlock that consciousness is suffering. Is the horrific theory of Westworld is that you take these robots, you put them in situations where they're going to be abused by humans for a long time over and over again. And then through that, they end up developing consciousness because the level of sort of richness of experience that they get through the trauma is basically what creates this consciousness, which is horrifying as an idea. And also I find it fascinating. I don't know.
That is amazing. Is this, are the creators of Westworld Buddhist? Because isn't that one of the Four Noble Truths that suffering is like an inherent part of life? Forgive me, I don't remember my Buddhist education, but isn't that one of the four core pillars of Buddhism? Is that suffering?
I don't know.
God, incredible. Look up the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah. Right. So looking here, right, the first one, apparently, this is Wikipedia, is dukkha, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, not being at ease, suffering from dushta, standing unstable. Dukkha is an innate characteristic of transient existence. Nothing is forever, and this is painful.
I mean, no arguments there.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what that means, though.
I mean, I think you're spot on.